Welcome to the Sacred Window podcast. I'm your host, Christine Devlin Eck. Here at the Center for Sacred Window Studies, we explore and expand on conscious postpartum care. We navigate the overlap of caring for others and caring for ourselves. We honor the transitions, not only in giving birth, but in being alive. Welcome to the conversation.
And I will never be the same again.
Hello, welcome to the Sacred Window podcast. I'm Christine. I'm so happy to be joined today by two of the most beautiful people that I have been so lucky to meet in the past year, Heather Todd Franklin and Dru Erin Houchen. Heather is based in Gulfport, Florida. She is the owner of Gulfport Yoga. And she is the founder of Prana Mama Ayurvedic Postpartum Care. And Dru is based in Colorado and California. She kind of splits her time, but she is the founder of Hour Motherhood, and they are co-founders of a beautiful brand new business that was birthed at our Sacred Window retreat. And it's called Wild Clovers, which is a combination of their baby daughters' names, which is just precious. But I've really been drawn to speaking with both Dru and Heather because the way that they are applying their brilliance for postpartum is not just in serving new families, which they both do so beautifully, but it's also in supporting the caregivers and helping doulas and caregivers to bring their authentic selves out in the way that they structure and show who they are in their businesses through their websites, through their branding, through their understanding of their identity. And I know for me in my business process, like the closer I get to know myself and my mission and my purpose, the more easeful it is to tell other people and to bring in the clients and the students and the people who are coming into our professional sphere. It just starts to flow. If we don't have that clarity and that authenticity, it's not going to flow. And so you two are so brilliant and natural in the way that you captured. So a side note, Dru and Heather helped capture our retreat event, both in photography and in video. And it was like they were just these angels who came into the space and knew exactly what we needed and what we wanted. And they just did it with such intention and love and consciousness. And it, like, I looked at your website before this call and I was like crying almost because it was all these like images from the retreat that evoke such raw feeling. So bravo, first of all, both of you are so talented. So welcome. I just talked a lot, but welcome.
Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah. Dru, you're gonna just give us a little start. Say hello, like give us, what has drawn you? Like, what is your path to this moment today in short? Like, how does business and conscious postpartum care connect for you?
Wow. I mean, naturally, since I was a child, I was drawn to caregiving and wanting to always be that person that my friends went to when they needed somebody. And that kind of just happened. I didn't try, it just became a very real thing for me. And as a kid, I had a lot of drive with business. I had a lanyard making company at the age of 7. I went door to door selling lanyards and bedazzling bandanas because that was a thing in the 90s. So that was just like the thing for me. And then I would compete on my chores to see like, oh, could I beat how many chores I did this week? And could I make this much allowance this week? That was just also part of me from like a very young age. And it's not something that my parents really taught me. It was just something that I did. And then they just supported it. And anything that I did, they were like, let's go to Michael's and get you what you need. Let's do that. So blending those two as I got older, it just kind of became a natural thing for me. I wanted to just be in the service industry, and it started in photography. Um, I worked in fashion, but the thing that really drew me to the productions that I did was being able to connect with my talent and the client who was on the other side of the camera and tell the story that they're feeling inside rather than what the set is telling you. So there's two different things that I was able to bring together. If that makes sense out loud, it makes perfect sense in my head. um, but yeah, so being able to invoke those stories and those feelings and those emotions by making the person in front of me feel like we're the only ones in the room and no one else exists. Because also, when you're on set, there's the stylist, there's directors, there's all these other people there who are watching, and you have to make them feel like it's just a bubble of us too. And if that meant that, I have to pull my pants down and like moon everybody and get some giggles, or if there's like a nude shot in water, like I get in there naked with them and make them feel comfortable. They're not the only ones. That's just something that I felt um, always really connected to, is just putting myself in that person's shoes emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, um, and just doing that. So I think naturally it kind of did a dance together.
It feels very connected to doula work because it's like we want the person we're caring for to feel like we're right there with you. Like we see you, we're holding you, and I'm ready to do whatever I need to do to help you feel safe, to help you feel comfortable. And there's something in particular about someone who's exposing themselves in terms of like, whether it's being photographed or whether it's like sharing your truth, like putting yourself out there as a new caregiving business, and like that imposter syndrome or that feeling of not being worthy, or you know, to have somebody alongside us that sees our feelings, that sees the uniqueness and the beauty of just us, like that is priceless. And I totally see it. That like that gift that you have is so connected to being able to offer conscious care during the postpartum window. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
And Heather, like, I mean, your journey kind of began a little bit like more in the yoga field, but also you've been on lots of different sets. And for you, when you think about blending your business background, all of the spheres that you have served and thrived in as a professional, like how do those things converge for you? How does conscious care and business, how does it come together?
So I just have to note that the whole Dru being willing to get naked and like make you feel comfortable, like I was a recipient of that. And it was amazing. I have photographs of myself that I will cherish for the rest of my life. No one's ever seen me through a lens the way that she was able to capture me through a lens, and forever I'll be grateful for those moments. So Dru, thank you for that. For me though, I go all the way back to the little girl who was constantly pausing Disney videos to like draw what she saw on the screen, to creating all sorts of different art projects with every kind of media I could find in my house, and that was something that my parents leaned into and allowed me to pursue. I was really into theater growing up as well, and that was also encouraged. So I've had, as much as I do have stage fright, like there's no doubt, I had this capacity for putting myself in to a different place. Like I think it's called method acting, where you kind of pretend that you're someone else. And so I started learning to embody these different experiences in order to get over my stage fright. I did it with yoga teaching for a long time too, just kind of become it. And when it comes to connecting with people, that empathy is that's how I cultivated that ability to connect with others and to anticipate their needs and to hold space and to be still. I find it really easy to dial into others because it allows me to have an inherent purpose in the moment. Instead
Mm.
of this really busy brain, I get to just be with them. And I can hold space and I can give them what they need. I can give them everything I'm capable of giving them. There's no part of me that isn't that wants to hold back, and I love that I don't have to guess that I can connect and I can be present and I can hold space and let the person who is in that space and take what they need without any expectations of them. So I've really made my impact through yoga in the same way. I devise classes for individuals on the neurodivergent spectrum. I hold classes for high energy individuals and that have like the vata imbalance is kind of my expertise, which is where postpartum care really came in so naturally because those experiences are inherent in me and I can empathize completely. And through my own work, I've seen both sides of that experience. I know how great it feels when you come through it and you start to see the puzzle pieces fall together and you start to wake up in the morning and feel a little bit more like yourself. This really indescribable feeling of just being you again, whatever that means. And then, I mean, ultimately, evolving in my work has allowed me to express that even more. Um, there isn't one career that could ever be enough for me. So there's this caregiving aspect that comes really naturally, and there's holding the space that feels really good. But I love to build things. I'm a constant doer, constantly. I was laying a floor in my laundry room earlier today because I had 2 hours to do it and a lot of extra energy. And so realizing how much of a challenge it was for me to formulate what a business model could look like for someone like me who wants to be a caregiver but has all these other limbs of things that they want to do and then has the experience of motherhood still currently happening and having to fraction myself. uh, I realized that other people could benefit from the experiences that I've had, and then in meeting someone like Dru, who also has this photography and production background, which is another thing that I have, videography and television and film production. She has all we have, like we tell stories and they're so similar. It just felt so natural to have someone to work with and bounce things off of who sees the world through a different lens than I do, but carries a lot of these traits that I have forward as well. And so for me, this has been a natural evolution because I like to live outside of myself. It's really nice to live outside of myself, and I love to hold space authentically for others. And for me, authentic looks like let me help you in any way I can. One of my strengths is building businesses, but creative design and production, and so that was a fit. That's that's inherent, and that's how I've been able to carry the work forward beyond these like structures of yoga or Ayurveda, whatever they
Oh,
were. That
it's
makes
so good because I feel like, what you've listening to both of you, when I think about like what conscious business means to me, it includes the ability to discover more about myself through the work that I'm doing. So, you know, and I tell people this all the time in our programs, like your practice grows and changes with you. It is of you, and it's serving us as much as it's serving other people. So that's like a pillar of it for me. And I heard you say that, like, it's, you know, you are growing yourself as a person as you seek out the professional experiences and services that you are called to offer. And it's also so much about um, like connecting and collaborating, and we talked about this before the recording started, but like seizing opportunities, it's like responding to what is present in the moment, and the two of you coming together at the retreat, not knowing each other from totally different places, realizing that you have such alignment, that your backgrounds align, that your goals are aligning, that you seized that opportunity and you created something really authentic and really beautiful in the service of people who are in the caregiving field and the wellness field, in this conscious business field, to help them, I guess, express the most authentic versions of themselves, which is really hard to do for some of us. I mean, you two are great at capturing that, but Heather, you even said like it was such a vulnerable moment for you to be the one being photographed in that way. And it took like, it's hard for a lot of us to even know ourselves enough to be able to share that in a compelling way with the people that we want to serve, because it's, businesses, the word business feels intimidating for a lot of people in the caregiving and wellness industry. Like, we come into this with confidence, with our skills, with our intuition, with our ability to hold space, with our, all of that is like pulsing so strong. But the identity of, now I'm a professional or a business person, for me years ago, that was really scary. And I did not have any support, to be honest, like no support. I just kind of followed cookie cutters of what I saw out there and had to completely reinvent the wheel myself, because none of those models were really fitting or working for me with where I was. And I also really needed someone to help me see my own authentic brilliance, like help me really see myself for the things that only I could bring to my practice. Like, I couldn't copy somebody else and feel empowered. I had to like really see myself in the skills that I had and what I personally was bringing that nobody else could do. Only I could do that. So there's a gift that you guys have, and I think I'd love to hear you speak a little on it. And I also, the mom piece of it that you mentioned, Heather, is really important too, and I want to go there as well. But as people who have been in production industry and sort of the creating content that's going to be put out there for others to take in, like, how important is branding and being able to effectively convey who you are to the outside world? Like, we all know, like, if you're in a business, that this is important, but a lot of times people in the caregiving or doula field or Ayurveda or whatever, like the wellness, like even the word branding feels like, like so capitalist, and like, I don't like that. That's not me. But why is that actually a really beautiful process to go through?
Dru, you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. Um, I mean, we actually talked about this the other day, Heather, but one of the main things that comes up for me is when you look at someone's website, and I'll use myself as an example. When I was going through postpartum depression and anxiety and psychosis, if I went on someone's website that was telling me they work with people like me, but there was colors like bright orange and bright yellow, that's not that's not aligning with how I feel right now. So that would almost turn me off from working with them. Now, if I went to someone else's website that maybe had like muted darker greens and grays and darker browns that more felt, first of all, grounding and soothing and very earthy, but not just that, the color palette of the emotional palette that I was feeling as well. So that would speak to me more so than the other one. So I feel like when you are doing your branding, it's not just about the colors, but it's the target audience and how those blend together. And then there's the copywriting piece. What's your verbiage? Hey, this is going to be so great. That's not going to vibe with someone who's going through a really deep emotional time, right? So that's what I have to say about that. Also,
Yeah.
and I'm going through this myself personally. I started a Sacred Heart um, when I first started your program, Christine. And for the entire almost a year now, I every day I had so much judgment around it, and it was external judgment, internal judgment, um, imposter syndrome, and it really got ingrained. And I think I mentioned this in our class the other day, but it really got ingrained in the metadata of everything that I was doing and how a Sacred Heart was presenting itself. And everything that I did, there always just felt like a deep disconnect because of that judgment. It didn't feel totally authentic to me. So now I'm in this rebranding phase that's completely judgment free. I've been on this path now a couple weeks, and it just feels so clear and so clean and so me. It feels so good. And it feels exactly, it feels almost exact to the target audience that I want to draw in. So I think that's, yeah.
It opens the flow, right? It's
Mhm.
like not
Yeah.
only for others to understand us, but for ourselves to be able to speak and communicate and give totally within flow that, I don't know how else to explain it because I can only feel it, and and I also feel like it's not this like thing you do at the beginning and then you're done, right? It's like, no, because I'm continuing to grow. And so my re-examination of like, what is my intention here? Who is this for? Like, who is actually showing that they need this work? Like, all of it is so thoughtful. And when we tap into it, when it's aligned, it just literally makes everything else come easy. Like people are coming in the door easier. It's so much easier to write emails. It's so much easier to like post something. Everything looks right. It's like really beautiful and how it just sets the flow.
The visual that's coming to me right now is like feng shui. How if your front door is in a weird funky spot of your house, the chi, the flow, the energy is going to have a hard time finding its way around your property and into your house, as opposed to if it's like clear right there, you have beautiful energy flow. So that's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Heather, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm also going through some rebranding, which I love doing. When I started, I thought I was going to be in nutrition. I thought because of my background in food service and I owned a kombucha company when I gave birth to Wilder. I shut that down and started focusing mostly on Ayurvedic medicine, and I thought, well, I'll just definitely become someone who makes food, and I kept forcing that into all of my models because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And and so everything I was doing was sort of it was about consumptive things and about how can I manage your space for you. All of it felt wrong. Like I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that work. I don't I struggle to plan meals for my own family. I was really feeling wrong in all of that, and I had my Guruji Manjalali was the one who said, "Have you thought about postpartum doula care, or women's health in general? You don't need to feed them. You can support them." And that started to shift things for me, but I wasn't ready to abandon my own model. So I melded them together and thought, okay, I can do it all. I'm going to do all of this. Like, and then as time went on, um, that felt wrong. Every single name that I was coming up with felt wrong. And every website that I built felt wrong. And every color scheme that I found felt wrong because I wasn't clear on what I wanted to do, what I wanted to offer. And I really sat with it. And I did some japa mala, and I meditated on it over and over and over again. And I was inspired by Dru actually, because the complexity of what I was offering was giving me anxiety, not relieving it. And I was persisting in my own imbalance. And finally, it became incredibly clear what my concentration and my focus should be, and it feels so right. Same thing that Dru's going through right now. It was like it's clean and it's easy and it's soft and it's right and it's authentic, and it's something I can lean so deeply into and know that I can carry it forward. That this work can come with me, it can be with me, can grow with me, and it's not going to feel like something that I have to abandon because of overwhelm or overwork. It's mine that I can. This is what I get to do. I get to do this, and this process has been. I've never experienced this kind of difficulty in figuring something out, because for others, I have this knack for listening and hearing them and asking questions and consciously communicating and reframing and figuring all of that out for others. But to find it for myself, it when the little light bulb goes off and you see your path, it changes everything. The branding aspect of it really is about the how it invokes emotional response in your client, but you have to resonate with it too. I think it goes, and you have to bring those two things together. I do tend to stay away from louder colors. Don't mind the headband today, but I like to. But I'm a colorful person. I like colors, so clearly, so there's this. How do you know when you meet me that what you saw online is authentic? That has to come through. But at the same time, I also want to invoke a feeling of support and of peace and of calm for the women that I'm going to be serving and supporting. And so those two things have to come together. And now that I'm clear, the new website that I've built is just, I love it. Like, it's it. And I don't feel compelled to have to over explain. That's another thing that Dru and I talked about in the past. Both of us have experienced pretty significant postpartum depression, anxiety, and some psychosis. And it was awful. And there was absolutely the interaction of a busy website or too much content will shut you down. It's an overstimulation. There's no way I would lean into something like that. And when I look back at my old websites for reference and I see how much explanation I had to do, that meant I wasn't doing the work of showcasing through the other energetic what I was offering. And now I look at it and think, I would love this if I was in this state. And that's what we want for every single person that we meet that's doing this work, because at the end of the day, we are the ones carrying this forward, all of us. and what we bring out into the world and what we have the honor of providing will only ripple out from there. And the work that we can do to help bring more clients to the caregivers help spread that beyond generation after generation after generation. And so each individual caregiver story can be told through their branding and through the photography that's captured and through capturing their events and the energy that is created there, so that when you look back at those pictures or those videos, it stirs something in you that makes you feel that the work is worth it and that it's meant to be carried on. And so branding is about emotion.
Yeah. It's like leaving an imprint of something really important. I love what you were, thinking, like I'm seeing your story as you explain it, and it's really hard to let go of an old version of ourselves. It's really, really hard to do that. And if we're carrying on a piece of our business or a piece of our, work that we feel obligated to keep carrying, but it's not actually doing what we originally wanted it to do. And yet we've put so much like love and identity wrapped up in it. But it's such a brave and bold and freeing act to change when it's time to change.
I have one note to that, and it's something I say in almost every single class I teach. Take what's for you and leave what's not, because what's for you won't go by you. And that advice, that is something that I try to tell myself frequently, and I'm not afraid to share as a good sound slice advice, because it's okay if something's not for you anymore. That just means you're growing.
Yeah. There was something that a teacher of mine told me this week that like totally blew my mind. And she said she's like a business teacher, and she was like, it was in regards to like, I thought of it when you were talking about, explaining, not needing to explain so much on your website. Like, we don't have to do that. And she was like, they have to earn your description of what you do. Like, you don't have to tell them. That was like, what? Like, they don't deserve to get your whole spiel yet. Like,
I
let
love
them,
that.
you get to decide what you share. And it's so much more about the intention and drawing them to us, the right people to us, that the sharing of information and the sharing of more happens naturally. We're not just like out there like on the box, like, hey, everybody, I'm doing this and I do this and I do this and then we're exhausted. And most people aren't even listening.
Yeah.
So they have to like earn, like we draw them in, and it happens like we give ourselves to the right people when we put the intention and the energies within that branding, because branding is so much more than, colors and fonts. It's identity. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Love
love
to
that. I'm going to take that. Go ahead, Dru.
I'd love to touch on something, Heather, that you started to say. You mentioned that for you, building something of your own is more difficult, as opposed to building something for other people comes so naturally and easy. And I feel like that's because it's so vulnerable that, when it's not your own personal baby that you're creating, it's easier to listen, right? And tap in and help
Yeah.
them bring in their authenticity from what they're saying and sharing with you. And then you can create it from a place of ease, because it's not your own personal creation. It's theirs, and you're helping them bring it to life.
we've done this work together for each other. So that
Mhm.
back and forth that we do, like we've helped each other rebrand, and it's so special to have someone that I trust and who's I mean I trust your taste and I trust your style and I trust your eye. And for me to be able to show you something and know that what I'm getting back, I I agree with you, like all the time. And we do this back and forth where, it's like that, that it, it's been really hard to do alone, to be honest. And the sounding board is super special as well. And we put that out there. I'm putting that out there to say that sometimes you kind of already know what you want, but it just takes someone else to play back and forth with you a little bit to help get that out of you. And then part of what we do is training other people to manage their own stuff. Like this isn't an exclusive. We have the knowledge and we can't have it. We're both teachers. We both want to teach other people to manage whatever level of their business or their branding or their identity they want to manage. Someone like me wants to kind of be in control of that stuff. But I will tell you, it would have been really nice to have a crash course in some of these things, like, you know, 7 or 8 years ago, and just to have saved that curve, that really intense learning curve, um, and just been able to do the work and concentrate on the work that I wanted to do rather than having to learn all of the evolution of social media and of new marketing and of although the design is so much easier now, we don't have to do HTML anymore. That's nice. But that being said, it's been really really nice to have that sounding board, and that's made the difference for me. The seeds that have been planted by Dru, by our conversations, have helped evolve my own practice and my own identity, my branding identity. And so, again, inherently knowing how valuable it is to have a safe place to work through that stuff.
When you guys are first working with someone who wants support, um, and maybe it's different depending on what service they're seeking to work with you guys, but where is a good place? Like, where do you start with them?
A questionnaire.
Yeah.
We have them fill out a questionnaire that asks questions that really allow us to understand where they are in the scope of whatever it is they're creating. Are they very, very beginning, like seed has not been planted yet, or are they established and maybe doing like a restructure or rebrand? So we start with the questionnaire so that Heather and I can hop on a call and talk about and prepare and know ahead of time before we get on a face-to-face consultation here on Zoom. We know exactly where they are so that there's no time wasted and we can be right there with them in the stage that they're at.
If a person is, looking to start their practice and they're just starting to begin thinking about this, what do you recommend people begin with? Like, how is even like the branding process if someone wants to start it on their own? Where do you point them? Or where would you go?
It depends on what they're offering, and who their intended customers are. Because if they have a clear idea of what they're offering, that's going to lead them in one direction. Like they might have a different starting point than someone who needs help defining they are and what their intentions are and what their client base is. So again, it's all very circumstantial. There isn't two stories that will ever be the same, which is kind of cool.
It is cool. It is cool because I think it just highlights the uniqueness of every person's business and every person's journey. Yeah, I think for me, like having a helper at the beginning is really great. My earliest business, caregiving business, was I just felt completely clueless about all of it. And so I remember just spending hours and hours and hours just trying to like learn the platforms and like really had no idea like I didn't even have time or like headspace for thinking about things like branding. And then later versions of my website, I would like have, a friend of mine was good at that kind of thing. So she came in to help me. And then when Sacred Window Studies first began, I worked with a woman who was so great, who just kind of helped me just get set up and then pointed me in the direction of this person who did logos. And she honestly, like the Sacred Window Studies logo, that was like her first draft and it like hit my heart. Like it was the most perfect thing. And so that happened like in such alignment, which I know it doesn't always happen like that. But just having helpers in those key areas for me has been incredibly helpful just to get me going because it can feel overwhelming with all the different things that we want to be thinking about when we're starting a new business.
On consultations, I also love to ask questions to really figure out what kind of person they are. I'm a very visual person, so when I'm building something for myself, I need to see the website laid out and its structure before I can start thinking about my offerings and my copy and what images I'm going to use in color palette. Where some people are more internal and they need some journal prompts. So based off of how the conversation goes on our consultation will kind of determine how we move through the next steps. Sometimes we leave the call with our own visual ready to build a template, and sometimes we leave with their visual ready to build a template.
It's so great to be moving and acting and making decisions like as you go, but like don't ever skimp. I feel like in my own experience, the lesson has been like, yes, you can like keep moving through it, but don't rush through it. Like I can keep working, I can keep teaching, I can keep practicing, but I have to take these decisions intentionally and not just throw something out there. Um, yeah, yeah.
I love that you said that. I was listening to a Boss Babe podcast the other day. I don't know if you ladies know of her, but she's amazing. But she said something, she was like, "I used to get so frustrated and upset if I had to push a deadline." And then she was like, "I had the realization, like, it's not rocket science. I can push the deadline to whatever date that I want." And that's a huge weight lifted off your shoulders if you're not ready by whatever day that you set. So push it, right?
Sometimes
It's not.
arbitrary.
Huh?
Because sometimes these things are just so arbitrary.
Yeah.
We're kind of conditioned to say, okay, this is the timeline that this should happen in. But even for our clients, like sometimes they'll have an idea in their head and they'll want it to look a certain way, and then we'll get there and none of that feels right. So okay, like cool. This let's let's revisit. And that's a nice feeling to know that like you're not stuck with it because like I need to see something laid out and then make adjustments as well. I'm a visual person as well, so I don't know until I see it what I need to do with it. Um, and so for me, like color palettes might not work, content might not look good, or fonts or what just don't give me any good feelings. And so knowing that you can work through all of that um, gives me ease. It makes me, I want to give that to others as well because I think that there's a big investment that a lot of us get a little afraid of. Uh, what 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 kind of control do I have? And oh, you have all the control. Like this should be you, so it needs to be you. Um, and if you're not quite
It's
sure who you is, we'll get there.
Yeah, it's very liberating. It's very empowering to remember that. And I think that this leads me into thinking about, the role we have as not only business owners, but as moms and finding the sort of feminine influence that helps us soften around those wicked hard expectations and deadlines that we put onto ourselves. Like, I have to have this done by this time, or I need to be at this point in my business by this time. Um, that's really setting, in my own experience, it sets me up for stress in ways that I don't want to feel. And I also don't want that type of experience for our students. I don't want that type of experience for the families that we're caring for. I want it to be a softer, more compassionate and human experience, which is full of all kinds of need for flexibility and change and shifting as we move and are trying to continue to be authentic throughout. So thinking about, we happen to be in the field of serving new families and mothers. And so you two are mothers of little ones, like little ones. And my littlest is now 7, and it's like crazy how this stage of parenting has evolved and feels different than it did. Because when I started Sacred Window Studies, Lucas was 1. He was little, but I had this like fire in my heart that was like not going to be contained anymore. It was like, this has to happen because it's time. And I just knew that it was time. And so trying to balance being the business owner and also being fully present in all the ways I need to be for raising babies is a journey in itself. And you know, I know that as we began this conversation, like that is an important piece of what you two are bringing to your work together and honoring in the clients that you have, because a lot of them are in this similar position. They're trying to do both to the fullest of their capacity. So yeah, I would love to just kind of invite this into the conversation.
Yeah, momming is a lot. It's a lot. Like it's easy. I miss her when I'm not with her, right? But when I'm with her, um, there's this need to be doing other things. So what I found is if I if I set my intention when I'm with her, I can just be with her. And when I'm apart, I've given myself permission to be there. I used to be so guilt riddled to be away from her. I too went back to work um, outside of my own business. She was 7 or 8 months old, um, and I just she didn't stay with she stayed with her dad. So I know there was no outside caregiver. I didn't have to take her anywhere. But again, that didn't last very very long. I waited until I said it only lasted like 2 months, and then I came home because there's so much missing and guilt and like anxiety over how to show up as a parent and be right for her. And then there's that burning desire to do and to be and to grow, and to offer to others you, while I'm with her. So that it's a tough space to navigate. For every one of us has a different experience, yet it's this universal experience that propelled our species forward. And each one of these stories is going to be different. The ones that, for the individuals who are mothers that we'll be working with, yeah, we get it. All you can do is hold space um, and offer uh, freedom to choose what is this going to look like. And Christine, you did it at the retreat, which I thought was really awesome. We were at the big round table nearing the end. I think it might have been on the last day. It was one of our business gatherings. And we shared how much time we were going to devote to it. maybe it was in the main hall. I can't remember, but it was everyone was sort of went around in a big circle and shared what their realistic goals were for time spent doing this work. And I thought it was really special that everyone shared something that seemed really authentic. It wasn't, this is going to be my new 40-hour week job. I have this responsibility and this responsibility, and they're not all parents. It's not all mothering. For some people, it feels like mothering. One has a farm and animals and things to tend, and someone else has another business that they're already managing. And for others, it's school and other family obligations. So each story is different, and when you devise these caregiving plans and packages and offerings, you have to keep in mind that you have to be okay to give. The cup can't be empty. So what do I have to do to keep my cup full? I have to be present as a mother. I have to be able to have already shown up for the people that are the most important for me. And that became so like this work is the most authentic work I could do because this work allows me to show up the way I want to show up for everybody. No one's asking me to fit into any boxes. If there's a box, I've created it and I can uncreate it. Because this work isn't defined by a degree or by a time clock. This work is very, very human, and just like humans, it evolves and changes and shifts, and it can be whatever we need it to be. And so in that way, knowing that we can be that in all the ways that we show up for our clients as well. So that's what I've got there.
I love that. Love that. Dru, how is this blended for you?
Um, I have a hard time at balancing when my computer is in the common areas of my house because if it's just there, I want to open it and work. And then
Mhm.
that blends into the quality time I want to spend with Clover and Jacob, or just the quality time I want to spend with myself that isn't working. That's just yoga or watching the sunrise or whatever it may be, watching a deer go by, who knows? um, so something that I do the best that I can is I keep my laptop in the space in my house that is dedicated for work. And I have like a little loft above the kitchen that has all my sound bowls, all my sage buckets, like all the things in that corner. So I leave it in there. And something I did recently, we got new phones because our phones were completely shattered from Clover. So we got new phones, but I kept the old phone, and that phone is my work phone. So it has all the social media platforms and everything on there. And the phone that's my day-to-day has nothing. It just has, like, Safari if I need to Google something because that's my go-to if I have a question. I ask Jeeves. And call and text, like, there's nothing else on there. So that work phone also stays in my office, so I'm not just, like, seeing it and then going to a doom scroll while I'm hanging out with Clover. And though that's been something that's really helped me figure out a way to balance and be more present in my day-to-day life.
That is brilliant. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
might need to do that.
I
Yeah,
know. It's
especially,
hard.
when we're working at home, like I love to work at home. I am 100% a homebody and I do it well, but um it can be challenging when you're running your own business because you're thinking of all the things at all the time. And if at 8 o'clock at night I remember something that was important to me during the day, or I just want to do this quick little thing, it
Yeah.
it's harder to set boundaries.
Yeah. I keep a little journal in my nightstand for those
Mm-hmm.
moments because sometimes too, I manifest in my dreams. Like a lot of things, a lot of my inspiration comes from my dreams. And I'll wake up at 3 a.m. and I'll want to go on my laptop and just create it. And I'm like, no, but I also need sleep because I need to mom tomorrow and I need to human tomorrow. So I'll journal it so I don't forget it. And if I forget it, it's not meant to be, but it was nice in the moment.
Yeah.
I can second the note taking. I do a lot of note taking. Yeah, I punch a time clock for myself. I really do try to clock in and clock out as much as I can, so to speak. So if it's not time for me to be working, I don't feel guilty if I don't answer that message or that text or that email because it's not time for me to be working and I'm not always available. People know that they're supposed to call me if there's an emergency, and they do. And that's so that way it's an alert. It lets me know. But if things are coming in through emails and texts and stuff that aren't, I'll get there when it's time for me to clock in. Um, I will. So setting boundaries is definitely key in all of this, and then holding yourself to them as best you can.
Yeah. And for me too, it's just like giving myself permission to figure it all out as I go. Like I get better at it as I go. Um,
The burner phone, though, I'm loving.
yeah, absolutely.
It's a great idea.
Something else that I love to do also when I'm creating something new, um, I'll wake up an hour earlier. I'm also that type of person who loves to wake up like right before the sun starts to rise. So right now the sweet spot is like 5:30 and that gives me enough time of darkness and then also rising with the sun and then my daughter doesn't get up till 7:30. So I'll spend like the first 20 minutes like having some tea and meditating, and then I'll just jump into work because that's kind of what just starts my day and gets like that what's the word? It's like a flow state mind that you first come out of from sleep that like your brain is just ready to go. For me at least.
Yeah,
Um
we're the same.
yeah, that's like my brain works the best the moment I wake up and then it
Yeah.
kind of trickles down throughout the day.
Oh yeah. By now I'm just like
I think we're
so
doing great,
overstimulated.
to be honest. Like for the
Yeah,
time
we're
we're
just
recording this, like we're doing a
Yeah.
great job.
I'm proud of us actually. I was like, who picked this time? It might have been me. I don't know what was yeah. I Drew and I do really similar things. I'm a really early riser too. And I love to get up before everyone else and meditate and breathe and center and then work. Crack it open and just go to town because I feel great in the morning.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's quite the same.
I
Something
think it's
oh,
no,
sorry.
go ahead, Drew. Go ahead.
Something else I'd love to share that I think it's important for people to know when they are first starting, that starting hustle is a short amount of time compared to the long amount of time that you're gonna have in your business and your new venture. So it could be 6 months of waking up an hour earlier and going to bed an hour later to get that little extra. But after that first hustle, like it's streamlined and you can rest a little bit and take more time for yourself once that's all created. Oops.
I love that. And I think it's a really good reminder to create consciously, do it right, do it real. And that doesn't mean doing it all by yourself. What I love about what you guys are doing is you're literally coming from this conscious postpartum care background. You're serving people who are serving people. And when we are trying to go out and begin these businesses, oftentimes the helpers that we're finding have no idea what it is that we're doing, or they're trying to like help us create explanations or copy or like, our mission statements and things without any real resonance with the impact of what it is that we're doing. And you guys are supporting new caregivers and businesses and current people and people who are doing this incredible work in the world. And you're able to really help them channel their authenticity from a place of deep knowing and a place of experience. So thank you for doing what you do. And I still do get up before the kids sometimes to have that space, but I had to do it. Like that was the only time I had to work for so many years. It was like, the 2 hours before they woke up, and it was like the hour and a half of nap time. And then I would teach after they went to bed. It was nuts. I think back on it and I'm like, that was crazy. But it was what it had to be. And now it's different because I'm moved into a place where they go to school now and I have the space. But for all of the moms out there who are making their visions come true while doing the incredibly hard and beautiful work of having babies, I just want to shout out and really honor all of you and know that there are people like Dru and Heather who are there to help and make it inspiring and make it easier. So thank you both for having this conversation with me. Is there anything that you want to share before we part?
Really honored to be here. I'm really grateful for the introduction to Dru. That was just so circumstantial, and just sort of how beautiful the serendipity can be, and how grateful I am to have met all of these incredible women, incredible caregivers through Sacred Window studies. It's been eye-opening. It's really important work, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Thank you, Heather. Dru, do you have any parting words? Not to put you on the
I'll
spot.
second what Heather said. I was going to the retreat feeling as though I was gonna walk away just by myself. That's usually how I do retreats. I just go keep to myself and then I leave on my own. And that was just not the case this time at all. And I'm so happy for it. I cried in Ashley's arms on the last parting day. And I was just like, I needed this. Oh my God, this container, this group of women as the attendees, but also you, the women who brought us all together and who are creating the container and sharing the wisdom with us. Oof, oof.
Yeah.
It makes my heart sweat with so much love. It's the best, most authentic way that I can say it.
I love that. I love your sweating heart. It's really important to be seen and to be felt and to put ourselves in spaces where we get the opportunity to discover something new and be just completely accepted for exactly who we are. And I wish that for everybody along this parenting journey, along the caregiving journey, along the life journey. And you two, we've got a long future ahead being connected with each other. And all of Heather and Dru's information is going to be in the show notes. Check them out and connect with them on Instagram. Look at their website. Let them support you in creating the business that is perfect for you. And I will talk to you both soon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
you,
you so
Christine.
much for having us. So nice to be here.
Thank you.
Shanti, Shanti.
The Sacred Window podcast is brought to you by the Center for Sacred Window Studies. You can visit us to find out more about our online training and mentoring programs, plus resources and products for and about the sacred postpartum window at www.sacredwindowstudies.com. And our music is written and performed by Sarah Emmett. You can hear more of Sarah's music by visiting www.sarahemmett.bandcamp.com.